Welcome to the Reverse Diabetes Podcast, where we bring you real conversations, real hope, and real solutions for type 2 diabetes and prediabetes. I'm your host, Dr. Beverly Yates, ND, a licensed naturopathic doctor and blood sugar expert. Each week, I sit down with trusted medical professionals and health leaders to share insights, strategies, and stories to help you reverse type 2 diabetes naturally and live your healthiest life. So, if you're ready to feel better in your body, to boost your energy, to take control of your blood sugar, lower that A1C, and finally move forward with confidence, you're in the right place. Welcome. Hi, I'm Dr. Beverly Yates, and in today's episode of the Reverse Diabetes Podcast, I'm joined by Michael Collins, also known as the Sugar Free Man, founder of sugaraddiction.com and the Quit Sugar Summit. If you've ever tried to cut back on sugar and found yourself stuck in a cycle of cravings, guilt, and frustration, this episode is for you. We talk about how sugar rewires the brain, why it's not just about willpower, and how dopamine, trauma, and our culture all play a role. Mike brings powerful insights into the emotional and, frankly, the neurological grip of sugar and what it actually takes to break free. You might be surprised to hear what some of these connections are. You'll walk away with clarity, motivation, and a whole new perspective on sugar addiction. Let's dive in. It's my distinct honor to interview Mike Collins, the founder of the Quit Sugar Summit, and also known as the Sugar Free Man. Mike has been on this journey for quite a while. He's really an advocate of people eating healthy food, nutritious food, making sure that they are well aware of where there might be hidden dangers for sugar that's lurking in today's world. You know, when you eat food that someone else has prepared or packaged food, you might be surprised what lurks in those packages. So we all need to be better informed, right? So Mike, welcome.
Thank you, Beverly. I appreciate it. It's always an honor and always a pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah, same here, man. Give us a little thumbnail, if you would, an overview of your background and what got you into this work, because I think it's important that people know that.
Okay. Well, you got an hour. We'll take up the whole hour, but no, I got the podcast version. I got the short version. So I actually started a generation back. My grandmother died or when my mother was just 8 years old. And when they moved in with my great aunt, they 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 owned a country store across the way, and they said anytime my little mother walked into that store, she could have any kind of candy she wanted. And it was a great gesture for someone who was just lost her mom, but she really believed, and I believe she died believing this, that sugar was love. And that's how we grew up. And you can't even imagine the amount of sugar that I had access to or I ate and drank in my childhood, right? It was just insane. Like we had unfettered access to the sugar bowl. We could put as much sugar as we wanted on the cornflakes or whatever and scrape off a half an inch on with the milk. It was and then candy and whatever. But anyway, that's how I grew up as a kid. So I was inundated with it. And here's the thing. I didn't know that I was changing how I felt emotionally with sugar. That's an important part of what we'll talk about. But when I hit 14 or 15, I ran into beer, and I knew that changed my state. I knew that I was shy and that if I drank beer behind the high school, I could talk to the girls at the dance, right? Well, anyway, fast forward, I got sober at 28. Long story, but I'm an open book. We can talk about that if you want. But I went right back to sugar, as many people do when they quit smoking cigarettes or drinking or whatever. And I gained a bunch of weight. I'm a pretty thin guy and athletic, and I gained weight. And, I started getting acne and rosacea. Like I didn't even have rosacea when I drank beer, but I started to get it with the sugar. And the people that I knew in recovery, they were all gaining weight as well. And real like rapid, like 50 pounds in a year kind of stuff. And so I started studying it, and I started to realize that it was pretty much the same. There was a book that came out back in the day, Sugar Blues, and I really enjoyed that. The guy eventually married Gloria Swanson, who was a real health nut for her day, the movie star. Anyway, I met a woman and we had kids, and I raised those children. They had no sugar in the womb or until they were 6 years old. And you and I talked about it just before we went on. That's very helpful. And that experiment worked. My kids, you'd think I was lying if I told you all their escapades as their how their brain works and their college entrance exams and their careers today. It really did help. I do believe I'm not that smart, Beverly, but these guys are like rocket scientists smart. So anyway, that's about it. I got involved in sugar addiction after I kind of semi-retired sugaraddiction.com and founded the summit about 7 years ago and been interviewing the experts like yourself all over the world for 7 years. And it's the love of my life. So many people have put type 2 in remission in our programs that it's just to me, I don't want to say paper tiger yet, because we're getting some grad students in to study it more so that we have some more evidence-based stuff. But I mean, I see so many type 2 remissions after they get rid of the sugar in the flour that I know that if it's not a direct cause, it's related, and obviously we have to get more science, but I see it all the time. So that's how I got here.
Cool, cool. Thank you for sharing that story with us. I think it's important that people understand that there's different ways in which an intolerance to certain kinds of carbohydrates, especially highly refined, ultra processed carbohydrates,
Right.
can really be people's weakness and Achilles heel. And unless we are aware of that, we run the risk of having generations of people who struggle, whether it's issues with alcohol, issues with other kinds of addiction, it's problems with sweet taste, like you were saying, like sweet sugar is love and
Yeah.
people get that emotional association. It gets really, really embedded. So, what are the top three things that people have to know if they are trying to get a hold of the sweet tooth? They know this is their issue.
Wow. Yeah, that's it's some of it sounds a little counterintuitive, but you need to, or one, whatever you have to eat whole food. Okay. You have to stop eating bags, boxes, cans, packaged takeout. You have to know where your food's coming from because 84% of the groceries in the foods in the grocery store have sugar in them. And so you have to be careful there. But the second part is less understood, and I believe the most important part of the message that I deliver out there is that it actually has nothing to recovery, change, transformation, putting the sugar down has almost nothing to do with food. It really becomes an emotional management system. As a young child, you were exposed to so much sugar that your brain was wired, and this is all about the brain, and that's number three, but this is all about the brain. Your brain was wired to have sugar when you felt sad, when you felt upset, when you felt worried. And your parents were likely complicit in this, in that, they give you a cookie and head you to the TV when they were busy with the other kids or their job or whatever. And the more that I do this every day, the more that I know that this is a substance use disorder. It's a drug addiction that has literally rewired the brain. And we need to pave that brain over and begin a new neural pathway where we self-soothe in other ways, meaning, and I call it the difference between effort-based dopamine and substance-based dopamine, okay? And the third, as I mentioned, is mostly in order to change that sweet tooth, you have to study two things. One, fructose, not the glucose half of the molecule, but the fructose half of the molecule, the table sugar molecule, and that this is in the brain and it's not in your stomach. It's not what you eat. It's not the sweet taste on your mouth. The ability to quit revolves around what's going on with your brain chemistry. Okay. I always tell people if you want to get off sugar, study fructose, right? It's the frontal cortex, the frontal lobe that is affected by sugar. So it's hard. Like I said, it's just a little tweak in what people already know. They know that the glucose is causing diabetes, weight gain, heart disease, possibly Alzheimer's, maybe, but they don't know that the cure, if you will, I don't want to say cure, I shouldn't say cure, but one of the solutions to understand that the fructose is affecting why they can't stop. Okay, very important distinction.
So, tell you a little bit more about that because, oh boy, it was about 18, maybe 20 years ago. there was a fair amount of noise, maybe even 25 years ago, about people who have diabetes being told, oh, just have fructose. It's so much better for you. That it's a safe, healthy choice,
Right.
blah, 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 right? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
particularly when people have issues with a fatty liver, you're like, oh, what kind of advice is that? So
Right.
say more about what you mean behind this issue with fructose. So that's a sugar, folks, that's typically found, for instance, in fruit.
Yeah, no, thanks. It's important. I think, and thanks for asking, because you mentioned the liver. Okay, let's just start with the liver and then we'll go to the brain again. So in essence, we have an epidemic of 5-year-olds with fatty liver disease. Okay, 5-year-olds. Now, this is an alcoholic's disease simply because alcohol and fructose are processed in the liver. Fructose can only be processed in the liver. Okay, it doesn't have, it's completely vestigial, meaning it doesn't have a function in the human body, okay, that we've ever found, okay? And so the fructose creates the fatty liver and then by extension creates fat in the body. But when you move it to the body, the research is very clear, and this is really, fructose research is not that old in a lot of ways, the deep fructose research. In the last 3 to 5 years, the understanding of the fructose on the brain has really increased, okay? And we realize that it's activating the dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, oxytocin, adrenal glands, endorphin, all of these brain and body reward chemicals are activated by fructose. And we've learned literally as humans to hack a 10 million year old evolutionary system that was created to find food and shelter, or food and sex, okay, to recreate this and create the species, continue the species. But what we've done is learned to hack it by sitting on the couch eating sugar, okay? The weight gain, the liver, fatty liver, the weight gain. But more importantly, I always tell people the reason they can't quit and the reason they continue to have cravings for sugar every time. If I told you to quit steak for a month, you'd say, okay, you'd do it. Quit broccoli, no problem. But when I tell people to quit sugar, they all try, but they seemingly cannot do it. They fail at this simple task, this adult task of not eating sugar for 30 days. The reason is because not because you're craving a sweet taste. That's a subconscious thing. What you're really craving is a dopamine hit, a chemical, a neurochemical that was created for you to help find food and sex, right? And we hacked it in this modern age, and this goes back of 300 years from, when sugar ascended. But I swear to you, if people could just, I believe that what I'm describing right here is the key to the obesity crisis, the diabetes crisis worldwide, because this connection is not being made. We are all focused on the glucose in the body and the fat and the dot. They're not figuring out, how do I stop? And you've experienced it. We talked about it before. People, we can explain to them that they can't have sugar, but when they try to stop, they can't seem to succeed. Like over and over, they repeat this process because they're not understanding this one little piece of the puzzle. So yeah, it's not, I like this phrase from it's actually a science fiction writer. The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed. So people, they don't, like you and I know some of the things that I'm talking about. And we've talked on to experts and they get it because they've been researching. But the general public is still stuck in this diet mentality of eat less and exercise more for weight loss and health. And they can't, they haven't yet really received this information. So I'm really glad you're helping to bring it out.
So people ask, should I bring my own food? Um, like, how do I navigate? What are your tips, Mike, for people to navigate this world time where we are just bombarded with sugar, added sugar, sometimes sugars in recipes or ingredients, and doesn't even taste sweet, which is really unfair because then people don't know unless they actually read the label, right?
Right. It's such an interesting question. And I call it adulting, right? I
Yeah.
call it like we talked about it in a minute ago, that people like don't seem to be able to They've birthed children. They've got advanced degrees. They've done a lot of great things in their life, but they're not able to stand their ground when someone is offering them a piece of cake, right? And look, it's no fault of their own, right? I mean, this is enculturated. It's ingrained in the culture. Every ceremony from birth to death includes, we talked about before we came on. We were recording just before Super Bowl Sunday, and it's like this, anything, a funeral, a baby shower, it doesn't matter what it is covered up with this sweet product. And now all of these holidays have been co-opted or hijacked, whichever way you want to talk, like Halloween. I mean, yeah, Halloween, of course, but Valentine's Day. I mean, what the heck? It's like, it's not a chocolate holiday. It's a love holiday, right? So
I agree with you. It's so
I,
much sugar. It's ridiculous.
I can't, I just don't understand it. But anyway, I do understand. I understand where it came from because I'm a researcher of history. I understand where the hobbies came from. They came from the candy manufacturers, and they hijacked the holidays. But what I'm getting at here is that the folks have literally and this is part of our educational process in trying to change, is that you're likely in a system like that. Could be your family, your friends, your workmates, whatever, where this is happening. And you have to say that big word, no. You have to be able to say no and be okay with it. You know what I mean? Not really worry about it. But people really do. They think that they're being judged. And I always tell people, you quit drinking, people are like, yeah, you quit smoking, good job. You quit using sugar, and they're like, what? Why? And they get all bent out of shape about it. It's just, I don't understand. I mean, I do understand it, but it's kind of sad. And especially with the kids, when the kids get past 5 or 6, it's almost expected that this is going to be part of every event they go to. And so it's been, the cultural part of it is really a big part in change. Okay. You have to have some sort of support, some group of people, like I'm sure most of the people listening, um, who kind of are leaning towards researching this and understanding it a little deeper. But it's not an easy shift. I do believe that it's going to take time. It is a cultural phenomena that needs to be changed. So, and hopefully it will be soon with this. If you keep doing summits and I keep doing summits.
Definitely, definitely. I hear you about that. So, folks, as you listen, just think about the role that sugar plays in your life. Is it a reward? Is the withdrawal of it a punishment? Do you see it as a way to extend and help your health span and to be healthy? Or do you just miss it? Is it deeply emotional for you? Or is it just a substance that just keeps sneaking into your diet and you're like, dang, I thought I'd gotten rid of all of it. Oh no. You look at the back of a package and go, there it is again, right? Like I just feel like you have to be vigilant and thoughtful. It won't happen by accident, that's for sure.
Truly, it's eternal vigilance
Yeah, yeah.
in this society. I mean, I have hope that it will change, that I think in 50 years, they're going to say, they used to give sugar to kids, right? I'm just hoping that that evolution happens. And that's going to take more diagnostic proof of all the things we kind of already know. We just don't have exact proof.
Yeah, I see more and more dentists now, particularly pediatric dentists. Because when my kids were younger, of course, I take them to the dentist, and I'm noticing they're not offering lollipops, and I'm loving that shift.
Yeah, that's great. Finally, that was so different, going there to fix their teeth, and they're offering them sugar.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's do some myth busting while we're here. Before we continue with today's discussion, I want to take a moment to share something that could really support your journey. Struggling to lower your blood sugar or wondering what to eat next? You're not alone, and you don't have to figure it out on your own. Be sure to download your free copy of the Guide to the Yates Protocol, 5 Steps to Fix Your Blood Sugar and Reverse Type 2 Diabetes Naturally, to take the confusion out of your next steps and help you get real results. Download it now using the link in the description and start feeling more confident, more energized, and more in control of your health starting today. Let's start with, what's your favorite myth to bust when it comes to this whole concept of just, walking away from sugar where is it that you see people struggle because they've got one set of thoughts in their mind but the reality is actually a little different?
Yeah. I hate to sound like a broken record, but it really is that idea that it's not the food, it's not the sugar. You talked about it a minute ago, is that people view it as a restriction, right? They view it as they're losing something, right? They're losing a treat, a pleasure, right? I'll give you a true story. So just a couple of days ago, someone called me about coaching, and this woman is 100 pounds overweight. And when at the end of the day, the decision was made that she can't give it up because she cannot give up these foods, right? She cannot give up these sweets, these salad dressings, these different things. And it's just really not about that. I mean, you have to really resign yourself to the fact that this is about your health. This is about your wellness. And this is a big thing that I talk about lately, is that we find ourselves like cigarettes, cigarettes in public places, seat belts, condoms in bathrooms. We find ourselves in an evolutionary wrong turn that now science has said this is what's happening. So, it's just a level of acceptance at this point of the actual research and proof from people who have, like I'm sure in your practice, put type 2 in remission by diet, reduce their dependency on medication. And if they can like kind of get that, I use this term a lot, this adulting part of it. And like, we are not children who can't not have our candy at 5. We've got to bust this idea that it is that we are trying to, as professionals, trying to mitigate this damage that's caused by the sugar. We're not trying to take something away from you. We're trying to give you health. We're trying to help you get health. And I think another thing is that, and I'm getting pretty strong on this lately, and two things. One, likely, if they're listening and had a difficult time, their brain is compromised to a point where they're not able to make the decision correctly. And that tangentially with that and running right next to it is that this is a substance use disorder. This is a drug addiction, and that it's the dose makes the poison. This is a neurotoxin that we are ingesting. And because we can give it to a baby right now, people somehow think that it's okay. And I should be able to do just a little, right? I'm busting about 5 myths in a row here. We should be able to do just a little, right? But some people biochemically cannot ingest sugar without creating cravings for more. It's just been proven now. And so if that's you, it's not good. It's not bad. It just is like the color of your hair or the color of your eyes. You have to accept that. We all know that person who can have a half a glass of wine, but we also have a friend who drinks too much. And we say to ourselves, why don't they just stop? And you have to say that to yourself in a level of acceptance that that's what you need to do, maybe. Now, people always ask me, Mike, do I have to do it for the rest of my life? I'm like, maybe, but at least as an adult, give yourself what I call a 90-day window, a 90-day gift. I call it a scratch test. Just test your body with 100% abstinence. We will refund the weight, the skin problems, the high A1Cs. We will rebate all that back to you, because all you got to do is start again on day 91. But I guarantee you they will not go back if they really, truly try it, just as a test, just an experiment. So
That's a great way to put that.
yeah, I don't want to get on a soapbox, but it's frustrating because I experience the same thing you do. Is like, people really say that they want this, but then they're not willing to do some of the things that are a little counterintuitive and sometimes even maybe stigmatized, to recognize the term addiction, the idea that it could be something that they may have. I've started to use the words slight dependency, and people seem to accept that better than the word addiction. So
Yeah, I know what you're getting at here, right? Unfortunately, the issues around stigma are real, and there's perception and then there's reality.
Right.
And sometimes we're just fighting against stigma no matter what we do. It's presumed that if someone has type 2 diabetes, that they've somehow partied their way to that diagnosis and they're at fault for their health. Here in the US, at least, maybe not other countries, but certainly here, it is absolutely a social habit to blame people for their health problems, even when it's absurd on its face. That's often the case. And I think that what goes on with the judgment and the blaming and shaming for type 2 diabetics is really unfair and often has got nothing to do with it because sometimes it's the case people have no idea how these things are related. Nobody's spent the time to teach them this. They didn't grow up with it. They didn't learn it in school. Maybe
Right.
they didn't see it in their family, right? Like it's just not obvious. What if
Right.
somebody's been super stressed? Maybe they're a first responder and maybe they work in the trauma ward of a hospital. Maybe they are a firefighter, or a police officer. Maybe they're in the military. Maybe they are a single parent who's just juggling way too much and they're really, really stressed all the time. That'll get you to type 2 diabetes. So will obstructive sleep apnea, etc. There's all kinds of ways to become a type 2 diabetic. And in that, the idea of stigma, sometimes when I've seen clinically, and I'm sure you've seen it in your work, it is a factor that often keeps people from getting the help that they deserve because the people who should know better and who should be completely willing to meet that person where they're at and help them doesn't do it because they're so busy being judgmental,
Right.
or the person who has the problem doesn't want to get shamed and blamed anymore, and so they stop asking for help.
Mm. Yeah. No, that asking for help is you're hitting on a big one right there that people like they don't guys especially. I mean, I'm sure I don't know if it's the same with you, but 95% of the people that come to me are women. Like the guys, they just don't want to they don't want to talk about it. And asking for help in an addictive process or change process like that is, I don't want to say mandatory, but it's dang near mandatory. You really do need to be able to have a support group around you, people that are doing the same thing that you want to do. I mean,
Yeah.
we're tribe animals, we want to do stuff together. And there's now lots of peer-reviewed studies, even if it's cancer, it doesn't matter. If you join a support group, your chances of change, your chances of not, getting cancer again, keeping it in remission go way, way up. And the same thing here, it's the exact same thing. So, don't be afraid to reach out, ask for help, ask somebody or go in and get your self-tested. People are a little afraid of getting tested. I mean, they like, I don't want to know you or whatever, or they keep putting it off. But I think it's important, really
Yeah.
important.
It is really important. You're absolutely right, Mike. We're going to talk about some more about these issues with stigma, with the idea of choice, of willpower, and just how do people manage to make this work in today's lifestyle. Okay, so Mike, let's take a peek at the whole concept of willpower because I think there's a subtext here that people can muscle through. Like they're just strong enough, they'll be able to conquer everything. And I've yet to see that work. My understanding is from the research, like there's a researcher nearby here at Stanford, Dr. BJ Fogg,
Oh
other
yeah.
people, right? We've got about 15 minutes. People, it's a quarter of an hour. We got like 15 minutes of willpower in any given day. That is not a lot. So that means if we're going to be able to make decisions and choices, once that 15 minutes is done, we're kind of cooked, right? So now what do we do?
Yeah. Yeah, willpower is it's so funny as I was going to talk about it as soon as you said it before the break, but it's like willpower in an addictive process is almost not a construct. It's just not. What I was laying out before is that this idea that like we don't honestly do not know what we are actually craving. This is the crazy part. Like people think that they want this crunchy taste or this sweet taste or they crave ice cream or whatever. None of it's so. When you get some abstinence, 30, 60 days, you start to have this gap of time where you can say, what am I really, what do I, and this is a question I make people ask themselves. What do I really need right now? Sit down, have a glass of water, and say, what do I really need? Likely it's some, resolution to a relationship problem, a work problem, a finance problem, a kid problem. It's something else that you need. And you only wanted the dopamine hit, not the taste, to just make you forget about that for a minute. Just make you feel better, to assuage the feeling for a little long, right? And when people realize this, when they cleave apart this, when they raise to the subconscious, from the subconscious level, the need for dopamine, then they go for a walk instead. And also what happens during the process as they let go of it, sometimes old trauma resurfaces, like things that were not processed, you don't have closure on, resurface, and you start to get this free floating anxiety. And what did we used to do when we had free floating anxiety? We went back to this, we went to the sugar, right? Well, now you don't have the sugar. So you've got to figure out a new way to soothe yourself, to self-soothe yourself, right? And that usually involves some sort of effort. And it can be get a hug, or, get a massage or manicure or walk or something, go to yoga. But, it's got to be something that isn't the substance. And when we finally like have time, it's not an instant gratification thing. We can really separate these two things, right? And again, it's not willpower. Like I always laugh at the Stanford, I think it was Stanford, the study, and you've seen it, where the little children are given one marshmallow. It's a black and white thing. You've seen it. They give one marshmallow, said if they can wait 5 minutes, we'll give them two. And I always say to myself, like, that has nothing to do with their willpower. It has to do with they know that unconsciously, even at 5, that they would get, they would feel better about themselves if they ate that one right now. And so that little trick, that little like tweak in the knowledge, or the acceptance of how to do this little thing, how to cut back or quit, I think changes a lot of lives. I know it does because I've seen it. So
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think these are early imprints, and way, way back in human history, the availability of things that were sweet was not year round, not in any climate. And also, you couldn't just go and get it on demand. It's
right.
so different in today's world. And so we're built for that prior moment. And now
Yes.
in this moment, I think that's part of why we're seeing this international wreckage when it comes to metabolic health, when it comes to blood sugar regulation, and all the things that are related, whether it's fertility, issues with dementia, Alzheimer's, metabolic rates, cancer, weight, apnea, sleep apnea, things of that nature. You just see all of these, like a Venn diagram with all these circles of interconnected things that are being affected by this blood sugar thing. Because back in the day when we had sweets, it would have been fresh and in season, local. It also would have been acquired because you had to go pick it and get it yourself. You were physically active.
Yeah.
You couldn't possibly overeat it because really, how many berries or apples could you eat at one time?
Yeah.
Like and it wasn't concentrated. It hadn't been ultra processed. It wasn't highly refined.
I
So,
love it.
Mike, like, how are we going to handle this? Because today's world is not reasonable. It's not set up for us to win.
I actually love the evolutionary description that you just gave, because I believe it 100%. Okay. And, we were getting fructose, like you say, once a year, literally, I mean, I don't even want to bring this up because it confuses people a little bit, but even the vegetables that we have, the greens and everything, they have been hybridized to take the bitterness out, and they have some fructose in them, a lot actually. But the greens we ate 1,000 years ago did not. But those little crab apples, those, bananas don't look anything like we got very little of this stuff. And, if you want to get stung by a bee, you could get a little more. But that was it. Like that was it for the year. Like, and so that's why the body doesn't have this process to handle the ultra process assault that we're getting now, right? And that evolutionary trick, idea, concept, construct, if we could just get that part and then look into the fructose research, look into the sugar, the processed sugar research about what it's doing to the brain and body, it would literally walk people out. Like, first of all, I want to say, real important, gathering information or anywhere else is not helpful. Okay. It's just not helpful. It literally produces dopamine. You can Google, folks, dopamine, information gathering and dopamine. Okay. You're going to get this long list of things that it creates dopamine, right? A lot of peer reviewed studies. People come to me with no exaggeration, they're smarter than me about macros and food and diet and whatever. I got doctors and therapists and these people. They know what they're doing, but they still can't put down the sugar because they're not willing to do the things that we've discussed here, which is give themselves some abstinence to see what their body does, right? And to actually do it. It's a very experiential thing. And I want to, it's not something you can think yourself out of. You really have to experience 100% abstinence just for a time. I don't think there's a doctor on the planet that would go against his health or her health plan that said, I'm just going to quit sugar for 30 days or 60 days. They're not going to say, don't do that. So try it. Just try it. Just give yourself 60 days and see if you don't lose a few pounds and feel a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. Give yourself a chance to do that reset. It resets your taste buds and your tongue and the conversation your tongue and taste buds have with your brain and all the rest of the cues, right? I've
Right.
had so many patients say that when they take sugar out of their diet, they are shocked at how many ways in which they just feel better and like they feel
Yeah.
mentally, spiritually more free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick survey. So we do surveys, we're talking, we got hundreds of people lost hundreds of pounds. We've got hundreds of type 2 diabetes remissions. And you know what the one thing that they really are excited about in the
What's that?
surveys? It's not those two things. They're like 2 and 3 on the list. The number one thing is that their brain came back online. They remember better. They focus better. They don't have headaches anymore. They're not irritable anymore, right? This is the number one thing, okay? And it's very easy to explain. The inflammation caused by sugar of all parts of the body and brain. We literally have like we've heard of this, a type 2 of a metabolic syndrome of the brain. And we just, it's inflammation of the brain. And when that subsides from quitting the sugar, all of the brain works a little bit better. And folks, like they're really, really excited about that part of it.
Yeah, yeah. We just want to give people as many tools and as many ways to be in charge of their health and to understand how critical it is the choices that we make each day where we have a choice. And
Yeah.
when we don't have a choice, just understand as quickly as you possibly can to correct the situation so that you can be healthy and well and you can enjoy your later years rather than be terrified about what the future might hold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, people
cool.
just need to look in their family to see the type 2 diabetes or the Alzheimer's or what, a heart disease, and know that that may be their future. And to accept the idea that the research is now proving that it was just the diet in a lot of ways, it's not hereditary in a lot of ways, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, yeah. The environment is what makes the expression, even if you have a genetic likelihood of something, your nutrition and your environment, your stress, your sleep make the
Right.
difference, right? Like let your food be your medicine, let your medicine be your food. It's an oldie and a goodie.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a hard one. Look, I mean, it's enculturated too deep in the society to snap your fingers and have it change, but it's doable. You've done it, helped people do it, and I've done it. So I know it's possible. I don't know how to like I want to reach through the screen a lot of times and shake people a little bit and say, just give it a try, man. Just, see what happens.
Yeah, totally. Mike, I appreciate you so much. It's always great to get your pearls of wisdom and insights and share it with our audience. Thank you for being here. If people want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, you can always go to sugaraddiction.com and there's a free book you can download. It used to be an Amazon bestseller. We brought it home and you can go there. Just like you, we have a summit. You can go to Quit Sugar Summit and give us your email. And when we have the next event, we'll send you some information about that.
All right, great. Mike, I appreciate you being on this journey. We're all trying to help people have healthier lives. Friends, with these episodes, if you would kindly share them with others who could benefit from this information, we sure would appreciate it. All right, thank you so much for your time, interest, and attention. Take care. Thanks for listening to the Reverse Diabetes Podcast. I hope that you're walking away with new insights and the encouragement to take your next best step. If this episode helps you, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone that you know. Before you go, don't forget to download your free copy of the guide to the Yates Protocol 5 Steps to Fix Your Blood Sugar and Reverse Type 2 Diabetes. naturally. It's the same proven framework I've used to help thousands of people get real results without extreme diets or expensive medication. Check the link in the description below to grab your copy and take your first step toward better blood sugar control today. Until next time, stay consistent, stay hopeful, and keep moving forward. Remember, this is about progress, not perfection.